to the Madam MacGuffin podcast, where we're going to talk about the craft, the art, and the magic of storytelling in all its forms. Don't worry, this won't be film or literary criticism, and you do not need a Bachelor of Arts in any of that to understand what we're going to talk about. But all we want to do here is try to better understand the mastery in the art of storytelling, with the occasional side helping of fangirling thrown in too. As for me, I love an amazingly complex plot with characters who feel like family, and I don't really care what format that story takes when it comes to me. Now let this serve as warning. We are going to talk about all types of storytelling in this space, and that includes everything from movies, books, short stories, music, television, to things as far out as video games, soap operas, professional wrestling, maybe even the circus. I don't really care. We will talk about whatever might make us understand a little bit more about how stories are told and how they affect us. And occasionally, as we're going to do today in this first episode, we will talk just a little bit about what is on the horizon and things that we might want to pay a bit of attention to. Now, unfortunately, if you're watching this on YouTube or some video platform, there's not going to be a video associated with this episode. You're not going to see me. This is unfortunately because neither I nor my house are in a state to be seen at the moment. I'm packing up my house to do some work, and I'm going to do us both a favor by keeping you from seeing all that. So for the moment, just enjoy whatever graphic I've put together to illustrate this episode and enjoy the sounds, and hopefully we'll have something visual in the future. For this first episode, we're going to talk about what's on deck at the 2025 Cannes Film Festival, which starts this year on May 13th and runs about 2 weeks. The Cannes Film Festival is effectively my Oscars, and I generally really love film festivals on the whole because depending on who's on the jury and who's programming the festival, you can see some really unique and eye-opening films at these things that may not get a chance to shine anywhere else. The choices to me seem less homogenized. It seems that non-traditional and films that are not overly commercial will be much more likely to break through on the festival scene than they will during the awards season at the start of the year. Of course, there are still politics involved because humans are still in charge of these things, but it does seem like the entire weight of every corporate ego in Hollywood is not sitting on the outcome of these festivals quite so much, so weirder films might be given a little more room to breathe. And also, I just really tend to like French films. So anyhow, enough about me and enough of this intro. Let's talk about what's going to happen at Cannes this year. "2025 is the 78th edition, or year, of the Cannes Film Festival, or in proper French, Le Festival de Cannes. I want to talk a minute about what we mean when we say the Cannes Film Festival, because there are actually several festivals that take place in town at the same time that kind of all fit under that big umbrella of the Cannes Film Festival. There is the Cannes Film Festival, also called Official Competition. When you hear about the Palme d'Or, or the Golden Palm, the top award at the Cannes Film Festival, this is the one that we're talking about. The same organization hosts another festival simultaneously that is called Un Certain Regard, or A Certain Look. I'm going to say I probably know less about this festival than some of the others because they traditionally have not had a big social media presence. Since the same organization hosts them both, they kind of seem to put all their energy toward the main festival. At the same time these two festivals are going on, there are several independent festivals that take place in separate locations with separate management, separate juries, and a whole slew of other films selected for either competition or simply exhibition. What to me seems to be the most prominent of these is Le Quinzaine de Réalisateurs, or in English, Directors' Fortnight. This is a very different festival in that there are no winners. This is a non-competitive festival, just selections. Being selected to this festival is in and of itself an honor. There is also Semaine de la Critique, or in English, Critics' Week. I have a very soft spot in my heart for this festival because although it is small, it is mighty. This festival is full of lesser known films, but not lesser films, and there are usually some amazing surprises. If you think back to 2022, that edition of Critics Week debuted a little movie called After Sun, which would then go on to destroy my heart a few months later. Usually, unless there's some American connection or the film attains some kind of just astronomical popularity, it can be incredibly hard to find the films that exhibit here. But it's not impossible. If there's something that you find out you like during this festival, they sometimes turn up on Mubi, the streaming service. And if not, there is an annual online festival called My French Film Festival, and I've been able to catch several movies that I was really interested in seeing as a part of that festival. Of course, that online festival features primarily French language films, so if there's a foreign movie in another language, you're probably going to have to try to find it some other way. The last festival that I'm going to bring up is one that I'm actually not that familiar with. When it comes to small French films, it doesn't get any smaller or more French than this. It is the ACID, or Acid Festival, or Acide if you're trying to throw some French pronunciation in there. And that runs May 14th through the 23rd this year. That acronym stands for Association du Cinéma Indépendant pour sa diffusion. And that translates into something like Association for the Distribution of Independent Cinema. This, as you might imagine, is a French organization focused on, wait for it, independent cinema, and they really try to focus on emerging talent. So if you thought it was hard to get a hold of Critics Week films, this one is going to be a lot more difficult. And honestly, looking at the listings, I haven't heard much about any of the films or their filmmakers. I'm going to talk about a couple that just seemed interesting to me, but I'm not going to focus on this festival a whole lot. So, in terms of what you actually came here for, let's talk about the movies. I'm going to start off with the official competition, or the Cannes Film Festival. This is generally the biggest, brightest, most star-studded festival of the lineup, and it usually features the films that are going to go on to be nominated for Oscars. One super sweet note about this year's edition of the festival, and I quote from, I believe, the press kit, "The official selection is dedicated to the memory of Émilie Dequesne." You may know her. She's most famous for having won the Best Actress prize at the 1999 Cannes Film Festival, among many other accomplishments. I love her best because she played a character that I really loved in Brotherhood of the Wolf, Le Pacte des Loups. If you haven't seen that, it is ridiculous, and I highly recommend. It's martial arts and werewolves in 18th century France. That's all you need to know. A very important fact about this year's festival is that there are a record number of female directors. That has been a struggle for several years because, as you might guess, the gender parity has been pretty heavily weighted in one direction for all of history. This is the first year where we get a little bit closer to even. So, of the films in the official competition, the ones you've probably heard about are the new Wes Anderson, The Phoenician Scheme. I think I've said that right. And I'm probably not going to talk about that a whole lot. If you see anything about the festival, you're going to see something about Wes Anderson. Another one that you've probably heard a lot about, if you pay attention to these sorts of things, is Eddington by Ari Aster, and that is Ari Aster of Hereditary, Midsummer, and Beau is Afraid fame. And I'm just going to say about this one that the trailer alone fills me with so much anxiety that I don't know if I can watch this film. And honestly, after what he and Joaquin Phoenix did to me in Beau is Afraid, I'm not sure I'm willing to take this particular journey with them. In addition to the Wes Anderson and Ari Aster movies, something that I keep hearing about is that there is another Dardenne Brothers movie, because of course there is. They seem to show up every year or every other year at the Cannes Film Festival. And they usually, if you're not familiar, come up with movies that address some kind of social issue and frankly are extremely dreary. I've seen a few of them. They're beautifully done, but I'm kind of done watching Dardenne Brothers movies for the rest of my life. I'm sure it will be amazing. I'm sure it will be beautiful. But again, that is another journey that I just kind of don't really want to take. Now, for the ones I want to talk about, we're going to start off with Richard Linklater's Nouvelle Vague, or in English, New Wave. And yes, Richard Linklater has a film with a French title because it is a movie fictionalizing the making of Jean-Luc Godard's A Bout de Souffle, or Breathless. If somehow you're not familiar with Breathless, it is a super sexy 1960s cop and robbers thriller with Jean-Paul Belmondo and Jean Seberg in the role that pretty much launched her to stardom. It is the epitome of 1960s cool. And if you've gotten this far with me, chances are good that you are very familiar with it. So, when I tell you how excited I am to see this fictionalized version of the making of that movie, I don't know how to measure it. The main characters in this film are, of course, Godard, Jean Seberg, and Jean-Paul Belmondo. And I cannot wait, because Linklater is clearly an enormous self-professed fan of the French New Wave, particularly Agnes Varda, and the Before trilogy, to me, basically seems like an extended retelling of Agnes Varda's film La Pointe Courte. I don't know if Agnes Varda invented the walk and talk, but Linklater has taken it to new heights over the last 30 years. Aaron Sorkin may have him beat in terms of sheer volume because The West Wing had a lot more episodes than there are Before trilogy entries, and there's a lot of walk and talk in The West Wing. But Jesse and Celine in the Before trilogy give The West Wing a run for its money. Next up, we have the film that I am the most excited about in the whole festival, and that is Alpha by Julia Ducournau. It would be impossible for me to overstate how big of a fan I am of her previous films, Raw and Titan. And yes, that's Titan that won the Palme d'Or a few years ago. Thank you, jury president Spike Lee. If you haven't seen either of them, I just want to do a quick summary. Raw, grave in French, but no one here uses that title. The movie Raw is about a vegetarian student who is new at veterinary school and is forced to eat meat as part of a hazing ritual. She very shortly thereafter discovers she has an insatiable craving for human flesh, and madcap fun ensues. Next up on the Julia Ducournau roster is Titan, which is, again, a previous Palme d'Or winner. And let me just say that this film talks about family and female rage in some pretty unique and sometimes gory ways. Also, the main character has sex with a car. I don't know a lot about Alpha yet. I've read some reports summarizing its plot, and they seem to have a little bit of conflicting information. I haven't found anything official from the filmmakers, so I'm going to kind of keep my lips zipped on this and just say I expect it to be fun. And probably a little unhinged. I'm going to try to move through the rest of these more quickly. Those are probably the two films that I am the most excited about in the whole festival. But next up, The History of Sound by a director I'm not actually that familiar with, Oliver Hermanus. May not have pronounced the last name right. But all I really need to know to be on board for this one is that it has 1 Josh O'Connor and 2 Paul Mescal in it. I already know that Mubi will be releasing it in US theaters, so presumably it will land on Mubi for streaming too. A lot of Cannes films tend to when they don't get humongous US distribution. But the short version of this story is that 2 young men fall in love at the New England Conservatory during World War I, and then life ensues. That's all I need to know. I'm in. Next up, La Petite Dernière, or in English, The Little Sister, directed by Hafsia Herzi, whose name I probably also am mispronouncing. But she is newish on the directorial scene, but she's been a favorite actress of mine for years. She is known for her work with Abdelatif Kechiche, whose name I've also probably butchered. But I know her best for her role in Bertrand Bonneau's La Polonide, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. I would say probably top 10, if not top 5. If you're looking for this film, it's got 2 different English titles depending on whether you're in Britain or in the United States. The British title is House of Tolerance. The American title is House of Pleasures, because I guess we like to porn it up. Nonetheless, this is her third movie as a director to feature at Cannes, but it is her first in the official competition. The synopsis is it's about a teenage girl from a French-Algerian family starting university in Paris. But it could be about a girl watching paint dry, and I would be in line to watch it because I've been so eager to see her work since I first heard a couple or 3 years ago that she had a movie in, I think, Critics Week. I haven't gotten to see that one either. So this one, there's a pretty good chance. Since it's in the official competition, I feel like there's more of a chance that we'll actually get to see this one. And I keep talking about whether or not we'll get to see a movie. I feel like I need to maybe elaborate on that a little bit. Even though these films are kind of at the height of European cinema, the whole point of this film festival is to get them distribution in different parts of the world. And unfortunately, especially these smaller French language films often do not find US distribution, so it can be very hard to get hold of them. Next up on my list of things that I'm looking forward to, oh boy, I'm going to butcher these names. Okay, so let me just say in 2019 there was a movie at the Cannes Film Festival called Bacurau. The same director is back, and here's where I'm going to try to say his name. Kleber Mendonça Filho. Okay, I'm so sorry if you're listening, but the English title of this film is The Secret Agent, and I'm just going to stick with the English title in this because I can do French, I can do German, not so sure I know how to pronounce Portuguese or even come close to it. But The Secret Agent, like Bacurau, stars Udo Kier, and I'm already on board. That's all I needed to hear, but let's see what it's about. In short, it's about a teacher living under the Brazilian military dictatorship in the 1970s, and that could be informative and cautionary for some of us living today. So, looking forward to it. So, next up on my to-watch list is Die My Love by Lynn Ramsay. And the only Lynn Ramsay film I've seen prior to now has been You Were Never Really Here, but that was enough. It was my favorite film that year when it came out, so I'm on board. This one has gotten a lot of buzz because it stars Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson, so it will have a built-in fan base in the US just because of that. Other than the fact that it is the adaptation of a novel, plot news is slim, but it sounds like it's going to be a psychological thriller. Next up on my to-watch list is The Mastermind by Kelly Reichardt. And I recognize that Kelly Reichardt is hit and miss for some people, but if I am in the right mindset, I'm on board. I have not seen a lot of her films, and she has quite a few out, but what I have seen has been worthy. And First Cow is one of my favorite movies ever. I have not seen Showing Up. I believe that was her last film in competition a few years ago, and it was seemingly universally reviled by critics. Even though I haven't seen it, it's not because of that. I actively do want to see this movie. I just have not been, the stars have not aligned. I have not been in the right mindset when I have had access to see it, although I think it's on Hulu. It is streaming somewhere in the United States, and it's pretty easy to access it. But let's talk about this film. The 2025 film that Kelly Reichardt is bringing to the Cannes Film Festival is called The Mastermind, and drumroll please, it is another Josh O'Connor film, so I'm already on board. And if Josh O'Connor isn't enough, it also stars Alana Haim, Gabby Hoffman, and John Magaro, who was also in First Cow. The plot looks like it's seemingly also about art theft, which just checks so many boxes for me, and it probably will not take me as long to give this one a shot as it has taken me to give Showing Up. The next on my list, and the last one for the official competition, I'm not going to try to say the native language title. It is Norwegian and has a lot of consonants in a row. But the English title is Sentimental Value by Joachim Trier, who you may recognize from The Worst Person in the World from the 2019 Cannes Film Festival. And that movie owns me, so I will be waiting for this one with bells on. This looks like a family drama featuring an actress played by Renate Reinsve, who you'll also recognize from The Worst Person in the World, and her sister as their long-absent film director father returns to their lives and tries to tempt Reinsve's Nora into a role in his upcoming film. So a lot of opportunity for messy drama, and I'm here for it. Moving on to the Un Certain Regard Film Festival, or again, A Certain Look. 2025's Un Certain Regard has a lot of first-time directors. And notable this year, 3 of those first-time directors are actors that you are going to recognize. They are Harris Dickinson, better known for his roles in Baby Girl, The Iron Claw, and Triangle of Sadness. He's coming to the festival with a movie called Urchin about a homeless man in London. Then we have Scarlett Johansson's Eleanor the Great, which sounds fun because the eponymous Eleanor is played by June Squibb. And she moves to New York City at age 90 and befriends a 19-year-old student. So, sounds like it could be heartwarming. And last of the 3 is Kristen Stewart with The Chronology of Water. I am actually looking forward to this one a whole lot, because the work that she's done with French directors over the past decade or so has been so great that I am dying to see her show what she has learned behind the camera this time. The movie itself is a biographical work about a swimmer who flees abuse, struggles with addiction, and somehow lands in Oregon and is a student of Ken Kesey, and that's Ken Kesey of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest fame, among other things. So it sounds like this movie could be quite the trip. So there's not a lot in here that really kind of piques my interest as much as some of the films in the official competition. But there were 3 that looked interesting for some reason or other. And I'm going to go through them pretty quickly. The first of these is L'Inconnu de la Grande Arche, or The Great Arch, by Stéphane de Moustier. And this is the story of a real-life Copenhagen architecture teacher who won an international competition to design the Great Arch of La Défense, which is a Parisian landmark meant to align with the Louvre and the Arc de Triomphe. Anyone who thinks this will be a charming, happy, feel-good story, though, needs to read basically anything about French attitudes toward new architecture, and you'll notice there is going to be tension. I am all for a 1980s period piece, but one of the things that really interests me about this film is that it stars Xavier Dolan, who is usually ubiquitous at Cannes, but this seems to be the only mention of him I've seen in any film at the festival this year, so it's good to see him back. Next on my list for this festival is The Mysterious Gaze of the Flamingo by Diego Céspedes, and this is a first film for this director. Very short description: an unknown sickness spreads through a Chilean mining town in the 1980s, another 80s period film, and naturally gay men are blamed for quote-unquote transmitting it through their eyes. But a little girl goes in search of the truth. And last on my list for Un Certain Regard is Pillion, Pillion, by director Harry Lighton, Lighton. This one's notable because it stars Alexander Skarsgård, and the IMDb synopsis is, quote-unquote, a directionless man is swept off his feet when an enigmatic, impossibly handsome biker takes him on as his submissive. Where is the line for tickets? So that wraps up the 2 main festivals, but before I move on to the sidebar festivals, I just wanted to say a few words about some other film screenings. And when I ran through that list of festivals earlier, what I didn't say is that that's not all, folks. There are a whole lot of other things going on at Cannes during the film festival. There are a lot of different screenings. There are films that are screened for media purposes outside of competition. There are midnight movies, there are movies on the beach, and all sorts of different things also going on at the same time. Some of these screenings are new things that I'm actually pretty excited about, so here are a few. First is Colors of Time by Cédric Clapiche, and I know him best for his trilogy of L'Auberge Espagnole, The Spanish Apartment, Les Poupées Russes, Russian Dolls, and Casse-Tête Chinois, or Chinese Puzzle. But I've also enjoyed his other films when I've had the opportunity to see them, and I'm sure this one will be no different, so I'm excited to get a new Clapiche film. According to IMDb, the synopsis for this one is that cousins inherit an old house in rural Normandy, check, and retrace the steps of their ancestors in 19th century Paris. Also check. This sounds amazing. Next up is Highest to Lowest by Spike Lee. Just released a teaser trailer a couple days ago, and a new Spike Lee joint is always a good time. This one happens to be an English language adaptation of Akira Kurosawa's High and Low. We also have Vie Privée, or A Private Life, by Rebecca Zlotowski. And I've never seen a Zlotowski film despite really wanting to watch several of them, so this is a reminder to get on that. But this one is a French language murder mystery. What makes it a little bit more special than your garden variety murder mystery is that it stars Jodie Foster. And don't bury the lead, guys. Also Virginie Efira. Oh, also like Daniel Otoye. But then I mentioned Virginie Efira. So yeah, that's on my list. Also, next up is Le Roi Soleil, or The Sun King, by a director named Vincent Mael Cardona. This actually has nothing to do with Louis XIV. And I found the synopsis for this one on Mubi.com. I'm quoting, "All begins in a rundown bar outside of Paris, where a regular man realizes he has a winning lottery ticket only to be shot in a crime that needs to be quickly covered up." The only name that I personally recognize in this is Pio Marmaille. I think I've said that right. But the plot alone sounds fun enough to want to watch. And I've seen Pio in several movies before, and I tend to enjoy the ones he is featured in. The next one is going to be a little more familiar to American audiences. Honey Don't by Ethan Coen of the famous Coen brothers. It looks like this one is a follow-up to Drive Away Dolls, which I still have not seen, although reviews were not great, but it has Aubrey Plaza in it, so I may have to catch up. Next up is the movie Dalloway, or the English title The Resistance, by Jan Goslan. And ironically, this is an adaptation of a book that I am reading as I record this. This is based on a novel by Tatiana de Rosnay. The novel is called Flowers of Darkness. And in this film, a writer moves into an artist residence that includes working with an AI-powered virtual assistant that she names Dalloway. But as her time in this residence progresses and she's approached by a whistleblower, who's someone else who's experienced this, she starts to realize that things may not be as they seem. This stars Cécile France. I don't know how this movie will go. I don't know how close it will stick to the book, which the book is pretty entertaining so far. I'm probably about a third of the way through it, but I kind of really want to see it because the novel's kind of catching my attention, so I'm sure the movie will do the same. Next up is Exit 8 by Genki Kawamura. This looks very visual, very aesthetic. Apparently it is based on a Japanese horror game, I think a video game. The plot, a man walks through an endless subway corridor looking for Exit 8. I feel like I've been there. If he overlooks something unusual, he gets booted back to the beginning and I think has to do the whole thing over again. I'm not sure. I'm hit or miss on Japanese horror, so we'll see where this lands with me. The next one is La Ola, or The Wave, by Sebastián Lelio. This is set during the feminist civil disobedience movement in Chile in spring 2018, which is intriguing. Since I really enjoyed his earlier film, Disobedience, about a different type of female civil disobedience, I will most likely be on board for this one too. Another out-of-competition movie that has caught my eye is Connemara by Alex Lutz. This looks like a typical story of back to rural hometown to reconnect with a past love, only this particular rural hometown is set in France. The star of this one is Mélanie Thierry, who I mostly recognize from La Princesse de Montpensier, the Princess of Montpensier. Probably nothing super special here, but I have a feeling about it and I'd like to give it a shot. Next up on my out-of-competition list is the documentary Orwell, 2 + 2 = 5 by Raoul Peck. This is obviously a documentary about George Orwell, who's someone whose words I think we should all heed extra closely at the current moment. I know Raoul Peck best for his recent James Baldwin documentary, and I have no doubt he'll handle this topic with equivalent care. The last on my out-of-competition list is The Disappearance of Joseph Mengele by Kirill Serebrennikov. And this is a historical drama that is an adaptation of a non-fiction book by the same name. Of course, it follows Joseph Mengele as a fugitive across South America, where he was never captured and died in Brazil, happy as you please, in 1979. It stars August Diehl as Mengele. Now, we can finally get to the sidebar festivals. The first of these is Quinzaine Réalisateurs, or Directors Fortnight. I usually call this one the Quinzaine. Some fun facts about the 2025 festival. The artist for the 2025 Quinzaine poster is director Harmony Korine, and it's kind of adorable, which you might not expect given his prior work. If you want to see, you can actually download quality copies of the poster at the festival website. Another interesting fact is that 8 of the 19 feature-length competitors are the director's first feature film. There are a lot of first-time directors across the board in this year's festival, so I found that interesting. There wasn't a lot here that really caught my attention. Not nearly as many as there usually are. I think since there are so many first-time directors, I think the most recognizable name is Christian Petzold. And there's also a film directed by Robin Campillo, who directed one of my favorite movies in the past, 120 Beats Per Minute. So let's get to it. The first of the 4 is Enzo, directed by Robin Campillo, who directed this film after the co-writer and the original director Laurent Cantet died. This is another film about teenagers. It looks at class, family expectations, and in it, a 16-year-old boy from a bourgeois family starts a masonry apprenticeship that changes his life. Next on this fairly short list is Dangerous Animals by Sean Byrne, and the streaming service Shudder has already acquired this. That should tell you most of what you need to know. Also, it has sharks and serial killers. Third on the list for the director's Fortnight is Que ma volonté soit faite, Her Will Be Done by Julia Kowalski. The description of this one is right up my alley. From the press kit, Navoya, 20, dreams of escaping her harsh life working at the family farm. Under the influence of the free-spirited Sandra, Na experiences trance-like episodes and strange powers, just like her dead mother before her. And last on this list is a movie that has already been picked up by A24, who is already running trailers. And since I'm an A24 stan, I'm probably going to end up watching this. It's also the closing night film of the festival, and that is Sorry Baby by Eva Victor. This one premiered at Sundance. Looks like another rebuilding your life after something really bad happens story, and I'll take it because I'm kind of into that as a story. Next up, we have Semaine de la Critique, or the Critics Week Festival. And I hate to say it after having talked up this festival, but nothing this year in their listing really strikes me. Though you can usually count on everything at this festival at least being interesting to watch. So, if you have the opportunity, go for it. But 2 films in the program did catch my eye. The first one is a ghost story. Always down for a ghost story. And the title is A Useful Ghost, from Thai director Ratchaphong Boonbunchachok. In the story, a man's deceased wife takes possession of their vacuum cleaner. The family subsequently rejects this new relationship between the man and his vacuum cleaner wife, like you do. This one is described in the festival's press kit as social satire and romantic comedy and a burlesque fable. I don't know about you, but that's kind of enough to get me to watch at least. The other one that I have a good feeling about, and I don't know why because there's not a lot describing it, is Left-Handed Girl by Shiqing Cao, which is a Taiwan, France, USA, UK production. So there was a lot of money went into making this one. Story of a mother and her 2 daughters after moving to Taipei, and it is described in the press kit as this tragicomedy metamorphosizes little by little into an uncommon odyssey full of twists and turns. So I'm intrigued. Lastly, we have Acid. And there are a few movies here that look really interesting to me. This is not historically a festival that I've paid a lot of attention to, but there are a couple of documentaries that have caught my eye. We first of all have Sylvain Georges with Nuit Obscure, Ain't I a Child? This is a documentary about Moroccan teens on the streets of Paris, and it looks like it's part of a series of Nuit Obscure documentaries, some featured in other larger festivals. It's also the closing chapter of a trilogy, so I have a feeling before I watch this one I will need to do a little bit of homework. Next, there is Sepeda Farsi, Put Your Soul on Your Hand and Walk. This is a documentary on life in Gaza during the current attacks, and it is told through video calls between the directors and a young woman in Gaza. Lastly, for the Acid Festival, is A Light That Never Goes Out by Lauri Matti Parppei, Parppei, from Finland. And in this story, a musician suffering a breakdown returns to his hometown where he meets an experimental music composer. I know nothing else about the movie or the director, but the title and synopsis are enough to make me curious. Lastly, Sophie Letourneau has a new film there, L'Aventure, but I am not familiar with her work, just her name. But this might be a good opportunity to see what she's all about and what she can do as a director. And that concludes our first episode of the Madam MacGuffin podcast. I'd love to hear about what you're looking forward to at this year's festival, and did I talk you into or out of anything? Let me know either here in the comments if there is such a thing, or you can also catch me on social media at Madame MacGuffin as well. And if this all works out technologically, we'll be back sometime during the festival, hopefully in about a week, to talk about how things are progressing and what kind of reaction some of these films are getting. As always, it was good talking to you, and don't be a stranger or the wrong kind of weirdo. Keep writing, keep reading, keep watching, and keep dreaming.